Every single time you make a promise to yourself and then you break it, you're reminding yourself that you're not the kind of person that's actually aligned with the goals that you want to achieve in life. This type of behavior is reinforcing the fact that you're simply not disciplined. Let's talk about how you can fix it. Hi, my loves. My name is Dheandra Nicolette, and on my channel these days, you'll find a lot of sit-down videos where we're chatting about all things spirituality, life, self-development, including topics like today's, where we're talking about discipline and how to be more disciplined in your life. So if you're someone that struggles with being disciplined for a long period of time, let's talk about why that happens and how you can actually take specific steps to fix it. Grab yourself a little snack, a little bevy, if you will, and let's go ahead and dive into today's video. Actually, before we dive in, let me just remind you, if you are aligned with this content, you like me, my vibe, the way that I talk about what I talk about, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, like this video, give it a thumbs up, and of course, if you want to share it with anyone who you think it would be helpful for them to see this video, go ahead and do so. Okay, now, let's dive in. So according to the dictionary, discipline is defined as the practice of training people to obey rules or a code of behavior, using punishment to correct disobedience. Now, of course, when we talk about discipline in our own lives, I don't necessarily think that we always need to look towards punishment as a way of understanding discipline. But when I think about discipline, I think about people who are able to do the things that they know they need to do in order to achieve their goals, even on the days that they don't feel like doing it. Now, whenever we talk about goals, I feel like people always talk about being motivated or being inspired, which I think are two beautiful things. You know those days when you know that you have to go work out and you've made that promise to yourself and you wake up and you're feeling so motivated, you're feeling so inspired, you have your workout ready, you have your playlist ready to go, you have a cute new workout outfit, and it feels like it's not very hard for you, not very difficult at all for you to get out of bed and get to the gym and get your workout in. Now, on those days, obviously, it's going to be a lot easier for you to maintain your routine and be disciplined. But on the days where it's a struggle, it's raining outside, it's cold, you literally are a little bit hungover, you are just not in the vibe at all to go to the gym, those are the days where discipline becomes incredibly important because you are not going to always be motivated. In fact, motivation, I would say, is the wrong thing to lean into when you are talking about achieving a goal or doing something consistently for a long period of time. Because the thing about it is, motivation and inspiration are fleeting. They're feelings that come to us, we love it, we feel a high off of them, we almost get that dopamine kick from being motivated, but that feeling is not consistent and is not one that is always with us. So on the days where you're not motivated, on the days where you're not inspired, on the days where you do not want to do the thing that you know you need to do, you need to lean into something else, and that thing is discipline. When you make a promise to yourself, such as promising yourself that you're going to go to the gym in the morning, that you are going to eat cleaner, that you are going to read for a certain amount of time every single day, that you're going to show up for yourself in a certain way. When you break that promise because you're lacking motivation or because you're lacking inspiration or because you're not feeling, in the mood, whatever you want to call it, you are essentially telling yourself that you're not worth that particular goal. I always say that discipline is one of the most intense and highest forms of self-love and self-respect. And that's because when you truly want to change your life, when you truly want to do something great for yourself, when you understand that you are putting in the work for a future version of yourself, and right now you're in the trenches of it and it might suck and it might not feel the greatest and you might not always want to do it, when you are committed to showing up for yourself every single day, in and out, no matter how you feel and no matter what your outside external circumstances look like, you are telling yourself that you love yourself enough, you respect yourself enough to be putting in the work to get to that future version of yourself. Discipline is not only just the highest form of self-love and self-respect, but discipline is also saying that you believe in that future version of yourself. One of the key things that you need to do whenever you are trying to change your life is to understand that it starts today. You might not have the car, the house, the life, the money, the job, any of it that you really want to have, but in order for you to manifest those things, in order for you to call them in and align yourselves with those things, you have to become the version of yourself that has those things today. You can't wait for those things to show up before you start acting like and being like the version of yourself that has that thing. I mentioned this before, perhaps in the video right before this one, but I'm reading this book by Neville Goddard. It's called The Power of Imagination. And Neville talks about how in order for us to manifest our realities, we must first see it and become it and intensely live it before it shows up in our lives. We have this way as humans of wanting things to show up first before we then become the version of ourselves that deserves that thing. We have it backwards. We have to become the versions of ourselves first in order for that thing to show up. We have to believe that it is ours. We have to understand that we have to put in the work now before it comes to us. You would never randomly expect something to come into your life if you haven't taken any action towards that thing. And it's the same thing. In order for us to have what we want, we have to shift our mindset. And that's part of discipline. Now, I will say that I'm on this journey to eat cleaner and to eat healthier. And I'm going to put myself out there as an example. And I do not want any slander. I don't want to hear any judgment about some of the things that I personally struggle with. So one of the things that I actually have struggled with my whole life, believe it or not, is that I don't love fruit. I'm like such a veggie person. I tend to eat pretty clean, to be honest with you guys, but there are certain things that I know are good for me, but I just don't like them. And I've always identified as a version of myself that doesn't like these things. And one of the things that you have to do when you are attempting to lean into discipline and also attempting to manifest a certain version of yourself is that you have to switch your identity and you have to do it quickly. You can't wait for the day. You can't wait for, January 1st of 2025. You can't wait for Monday to come around. You can't wait for something to shift externally before you allow yourself to shift internally. And so one thing that I did recently is I went grocery shopping and I went to Whole Foods and I found myself in the freezer aisle. And I was like, you know what? I want to be the person that makes my protein smoothies in the morning and puts fruit in them, because people always do that, right? And I feel like that's like a really, easeful introduction into having fruit in my diet on a consistent basis without having to like do a lot to, change anything. And so I found myself in the freezer aisle and I just started to pick up a bunch of different frozen fruits. And I picked up different fruits that I was like, you know what? I think I would like this, or I think this could be cool in a smoothie. And I grabbed a bunch of stuff. And then that was that, right? So I went home and then the next day I was like, I'm going to make a smoothie. And so I did all of the things that I usually do for my protein smoothie. I had my protein powder, I had some water, I put some collagen in there. And this time I added a handful of frozen blueberries. Now, I want you guys to understand that even though you're listening to this and you're like, okay, it's not that deep, it's like just frozen blueberries. Babes, I have never eaten a blueberry in my entire life, okay? Let that sit, let that sink in. I've always identified as someone that didn't like fruit and didn't like blueberries. Meanwhile, I've never eaten a blueberry in my entire life. I put the blueberries in my smoothie, blended it up, and guess what? It was actually delicious. And just like that, I have now become a person that puts frozen fruit in my smoothies. And that is something I'm going to do consistently on a consistent basis. I've shifted my entire identity and it was done in an instant basis. And so when we talk about shifting your identity, especially as you're leaning into something like discipline, it doesn't have to be that you do these crazy things on a massive scale. I feel like people underestimate the power of little shifts on a day-to-day basis that are aligning you with the version of yourself that you want to be. Another thing I want to say before I get into some other steps when it comes to becoming more disciplined is that you have to allow yourself to take action right now. We get into this analysis paralysis sort of like section of our minds where we feel like the hump, the thing that we have to get over, the challenge of becoming more disciplined in a certain area of our lives is just so, huge. It's just such a mountain that we have to climb. We have to do so much stuff in order to change our lives. When at the end of the day, it truly requires taking immediate action and little steps and doing so on a consistent basis. 10 times out of 10, your action will be messy, your action will not be perfect, and you're gonna have to refine, you're gonna have to change, you're gonna have to pivot, okay? The act of taking action creates momentum. And when you create momentum, you can actually build those moments where you are motivated by your own action taking. So now we're kind of in a way leaning into motivation, but we're creating moments for ourselves to be motivated by our own action, motivated by our own discipline. And let's dive into a couple of steps that I want you guys to take when you are working on being disciplined in your life. I'm gonna give y'all like the tough love talk as well, that at the end of the day, you are never going to change your life until you're ready. And I say this not to be mean or not to be harsh, but I say this to actually help give you a little bit of grace, because there have been times in my life where I kept saying like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this. And my actions were not actually following that. My actions were not aligned with my words. And I actually had to admit to myself that I wasn't ready. I simply wasn't ready to change my life in that way. And that's okay. Sometimes you're in a season where you're overwhelmed with certain things in your life and you're not ready to take consistent action on another section of your life, and that's okay. If you decide that you're ready to change your life, I want you to lean all the way in. This is not a half in, half out type of thing. This is not a, oh, let me test the waters and see how I feel. No, babes, okay? If you want to change your life, if you want to do something great, if you want to achieve the goals that you have had on your list for years and years and years and years and years that have not manifested because you have not been disciplined, I'm gonna need you to switch something up, because there's no way that you're about to get to a new reality, a new version of yourself, a new, identity without actually changing something in your life. You cannot keep doing the same exact thing over and over and over and over and expecting different results, because babes, that's literally insanity. That is literally insanity, okay? You have to have the most honest, raw, real conversation with yourself and truly ask yourself, am I ready for change? And not even am I ready, because a lot of times we feel like we're not ready when we actually are, but do I want this? In the depths of my core, in the depths of my soul, am I willing to do what it takes? Am I willing to show up when I do not want to show up? There is something powerful about pushing through. And of course, like, let me also say, this is, you got to honor where you're at. If you're like, dying in bed of like sickness and you're like very unwell, like, force yourself to go to the gym. It's not that deep. But like, if it's literally like, oh, I don't feel like going today, get up. Okay, first thing you need to do is set your goals. Figure out what you want to actually have as a goal. What do you actually want to be disciplined in? And I say this because if you're in a season of pivoting, a season of like confusion, a season of waiting, I feel like I'm in that season in my life in a lot of different areas, then you are going to find it's a little bit difficult to be consistent in those particular things because you don't necessarily know what you're working toward. Now, you can have a specific goal. You can have a specific version of yourself that you have in mind that you want to align with. For me, one focus of my life right now is really on my health and wellness. I have always been a gym goer. I've always been someone that is committed to showing up. But this year I really changed my approach. I was like, I want to actually like push myself in terms of my training. I want to get better at how I'm fueling my body, how I'm eating, how I'm actually leaning into these different things in order to grow my muscle, in order to really push my body to be at a very like high performance level. And so when you have a broader goal, when you have a broader vision of who it is that you want to be and the version of yourself that you're working on or working toward, it will help you, because then you kind of can look back at that and see like, oh, this is why I'm being disciplined. This is what I'm working towards. This is why my consistency matters. If you don't have some sort of vision in mind, some sort of goal, some sort of desire that is fueling you, then on those days where you don't want to do the thing, you're going to find it very, very, very hard to actually like get out of bed and push yourself to do that thing. It's going to be like, oh, well, why am I even doing this? And you don't even have an answer. Next thing I want you to do is create a routine. When you set a routine, it allows you to lean into the power of the routine. You no longer have to think about whether or not you want to do the thing because you just do it. It is literally part of your routine. Think about the way that you wake up in the morning and you brush your teeth, or how you brush your teeth before bed every night, or how you go through your skincare routine, or you go through your nighttime routine. Like, it's just certain things that you always do over and over and over again at certain times of your day, because that's what you do. It's literally part of your routine, right? You don't even have to think about it. You don't even have to question it. You're not like, should I brush my teeth today? Or like, should I wash my face today? Nah, it's part of your routine. It's what you do, right? So when you start to make whatever it is that you want to be disciplined in part of your routine, you no longer start to question it. It's no longer, oh, do I want to go to the gym? Do I want to film this video? Do I want to do this? No, you just do it because it's part of your routine. When it comes to routine is literally habit. And the way that you build habit and the way that you create routine is that you're going to have a little warm-up period, babes. You're going to have a time where you're going to have to push yourself to get out of bed and do the thing. You're going to have a time where it feels like there's resistance because you're not used to doing it, because you don't want to do it, because it has not been your routine. But once you get over that hump of resistance, that hump of like, oh, this is something that I do now, it becomes part of you. Okay, last two, I'm gonna say accountability is super helpful, but I also want to say this. If you don't have any friends or family or community where you can lean on them for support, because I know that we say like, oh, like have an accountability buddy. Here's the thing about that too, because I'm gonna just put this out here. Sometimes you go into a certain routine or a certain lifestyle change with a friend or with a partner or with someone who you're looking at as an accountability buddy, and they fall off the wagon. And because they fall off the wagon, you feel like it's okay to fall off the wagon. That's not what we're doing here, okay? I'm gonna need you to understand that at the end of the day, it's you and you. It's always gonna be you and you. And I know that sounds like low-key, a little bit morbid, a little bit whatever. You can feel how you feel about it. It don't really matter to me. But at the end of the day, it's literally you and you. It doesn't matter if your friend falls off, your mom falls off the routine, your partner falls off, the gym buddy that you was going with, they don't want to go that day. You still need to go because you made a promise to yourself. And that's the thing. That's where I'm like, have the support, have the accountability if that is helpful, but also understand at the end of the day, if that person fails to show up for themselves, that is not an excuse for you to fail to show up for yourself, because you made a promise to yourself. You feel me? So what they do with their promise to themselves is none of your business. Okay, I need you to show up for you. Another thing I want you guys to do is to track your progress in some way, shape, or form. So whether that is, just having weekly check-ins with yourself, daily check-ins with yourself, however you want to do it, just have that way of actually checking in and being like, am I actually doing this thing on a consistent basis? Like what's my discipline looking like right now? And if you are going through a season where you've fallen off the wagon and you're struggling, get back on it. The only time we actually fail when it comes to this kind of stuff is if we fall off the wagon and we choose to stay there. That to me is where it's like, what are you doing? Come on, get back on. Even if you have to fall off 100 times and get back on 101, and on that 101st go is when you literally when it clicks for you, and that's when you can be disciplined. I don't care, because guess what? You did it. You still did it. Yeah, it took you 100 times, but who cares how long it took you? You still did what you had to do. So don't let other people try to make you feel like there's some sort of shame or some sort of issue with falling off and getting back on. No, the problem is never that. The problem is always when you fall off and you don't want to get back on. So if you have to keep trying, keep trying. But like I said, you're not going to, it's not going to click until you're ready to change your life. And for a lot of people, that takes a wake-up call. That takes getting tired of your own bullshit, because that's really what it'd be for me. I'd be like, damn, I'm really tired of myself. I'm really tired of complaining about this thing, but I'm sat here making decisions that are contradictory and not actually changing my life. Why am I doing that? Why am I really doing that? And low key, you gotta have a talk with yourself, and you gotta be let me really look at myself for real right now. Be so for real with myself. Am I actually doing what I need to do? No? Why? And how can I change that? Because I'm never gonna get to where I wanna get in life if I don't change that behavior, if I'm not consistent, if I'm not disciplined. That's literally what it is. That's literally what it is. Okay, my loves, that is it. That is the video on discipline. I hope this has been helpful. I understand that this is not always the easiest topic to talk about because it is quite difficult. As they always say, if it was easy, everyone would be doing it. Everyone would be disciplined. And I also understand, like I say in all of my videos, all my things, there are a ton of different systems, collective systems, things at play that don't always make it so that everyone's, disciplined actions carry the same weight in this world. But that doesn't mean that that is an excuse for you to not be disciplined and to be like, oh, well, doesn't matter if I do this or work hard or whatever, I'm not going to get as far as Sally's going to get. Mind your business, leave Sally alone, be disciplined for you, because at the end of the day, like, you keeping your promises to yourself, you being consistent in whatever you want to do, you aligning your actions with your goals and the version of yourself that you want to be is always going to be beneficial to you, no matter what Sally over there doing, okay? Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. Thumbs up this video if you enjoyed it. Comment below. Subscribe if you enjoy this and you want to see me again and we can chat, we can spill some tea, whatever. And I'm gonna see you guys in the next video. Bye.